Why you always feel like an outsider. Even when you're in the room, there's a specific kind of silence that exists in a crowded room. It's not the absence of sound. The room might be buzzing with conversation, laughter, and music. It's an internal silence, a pocket of stillness you carry around inside you. You're physically present. You're nodding, maybe even smiling. You might be holding a drink, part of a circle of people, and from the outside you look like you belong. But inside, there's a quiet, persistent hum. It's the sound of an invisible barrier. The feeling that you are on one side and everyone else, truly deeply connected, is on the other. This isn't about being shy. Shyness is the fear of social judgment. This is different. This is the feeling of being fundamentally separate. It's the sense that even if you say all the right things, laugh at all the right jokes, and wear all the right clothes, you're still just playing a part. You're an actor who has memorized the lines but doesn't understand the language. You're a visitor with a temporary pass, keenly aware that your access can be revoked at any moment. You feel it in a work meeting, when a joke lands and a wave of shared understanding ripples through the room, but it somehow misses you. You feel it at a family dinner, when everyone is swept up in a nostalgic story, and even though you were there, you feel like you're watching a movie of someone else's life. You feel it at a party, standing in the heart of the celebration, yet feeling more alone than if you were in an empty house. This experience, this chronic feeling of being an outsider, is one of the most painful and confusing paradoxes of human existence. How can you be surrounded by people and still feel so profoundly alone? Why does the feeling of not belonging follow you, like a shadow, into rooms where you have, by all accounts, been invited and welcomed? The answer isn't simple, and it's not about you being weird or broken. It's a complex tapestry woven from the threads of your earliest relationships, the stories you tell yourself, the subtle mechanics of your own mind, and even the very structure of the society we live in. To unravel it is to understand one of the deepest yearnings of the human spirit, the need to belong, and to understand why, for so many of us, that need feels so painfully out of reach. Let's begin by dismantling a common misconception. This feeling is not proof of your otherness. It is not objective reality. It is a perception, a powerful and convincing illusion created by the mind. Think of it as wearing a pair of sunglasses indoors. The world appears dim and distant, not because the lights are off, but because your vision is filtered. The core of our work, then, is not to change the room, but to understand why we're wearing the glasses in the first place, and to learn gently how to take them off. The first place we must look is back in time, not just to last week's awkward party, but to the very foundation of how we learn to connect with others. This is the realm of attachment theory. From the moment we are born, we are learning a fundamental lesson. Is the world a safe place? Are other people reliable? Is connection something I can count on? If, as an infant, your cries were consistently met with a soothing presence, if you were fed when hungry and comforted when scared, you began to build what psychologists call a secure attachment. You learned on a deep pre-verbal level that connection is safe and reliable. You developed an internal working model that says, I am worthy of love and care, and others can be trusted to provide it. A person with a secure attachment blueprint can enter a room and, while they might feel nervous, their baseline assumption is that they have a right to be there and that connection is possible. But what if your early experiences were different? What if your caregiver was inconsistent, sometimes warm and present, but other times distracted, overwhelmed, or absent? You might develop an anxious attachment. You learned that connection is precarious. It must be desperately sought after and clung to. In a room full of people, the person with an anxious attachment isn't relaxed. They are scanning. They are monitoring. Is that person looking at me strangely? Did my joke not land? Are they whispering about me? They feel like an outsider because their internal system is constantly on high alert for the first sign of rejection, the first hint that the fragile connection is about to break. They don't feel included because, in their mind, inclusion is a temporary state that must be constantly earned and re-earned. Alternatively, if your caregiver was consistently distant, dismissive, or critical, you might develop an avoidant attachment. You learned a harsher lesson. Connection is dangerous, and vulnerability leads to pain. To protect yourself, you learn to suppress your need for others. You became self-reliant. In a room full of people, the person with an avoidant attachment feels like an outsider because, on some level, they want to be. They keep that invisible wall up as a form of self-protection. Intimacy feels suffocating. True inclusion feels threatening. They maintain a safe distance, observing but not participating, because to truly join in would mean letting down their guard, and their entire history has taught them that this is the surest path to getting hurt. These early patterns don't seal our fate, but they do create a powerful default setting. We walk into new situations, a new job, a new group of friends, and our past experiences are whispering in our ear, telling us what to expect. We feel like an outsider because the blueprint we're using to build our social connections was designed for a world where belonging was either conditional, unreliable, or unsafe. Building on this foundation is the second major pillar: the gap between your authentic self and your presented self. We all have a public persona, of course. But for those who perpetually feel like outsiders, this persona is less of a social lubricant and more of a suit of armor. It's a carefully constructed mask, designed to be as agreeable, impressive, or unobtrusive as possible, all in the service of gaining acceptance. This is the phenomenon of masking. You become a social chameleon, shifting your colors to match your surroundings. With one group, you're the witty, sarcastic one. With another, you're the deep, thoughtful listener. With a third, you're the easygoing, fun-loving partier. You become an expert at reading the room and giving people the version of you that you think they want. The strategy on the surface seems to work. People laugh at your jokes. They invite you to things. They seem to like you. But a deep, gnawing unease remains. You feel like a fraud. You feel like an outsider because you know, with absolute certainty, that the person they are accepting is not the real you. The fear is constant. If they knew what I was really like, my weird interests, my anxieties, my unpopular opinions, they would reject me instantly. So you keep the mask on. But the mask is heavy. It's exhausting to wear. And it creates an impossible paradox. The very tool you are using to gain inclusion is the thing that guarantees you will always feel excluded. You cannot feel a sense of belonging if you believe you have to hide your true self to be there. Belonging isn't just about being in the room. It's about being seen in the room. When you're masking, you are, by definition, unseen. Every compliment, every laugh, every invitation feels hollow because it's directed at the mask, not at you. It reinforces your outsider status. You think, they like the performance, but they would hate the actor. This breeds a profound sense of loneliness. You are surrounded by people, but your true self is in solitary confinement. This performance is often fueled by a third, powerful force: the internal narrator. Each of us has a voice in our head that interprets the world around us. For those who feel like outsiders, this narrator is often a relentless, pessimistic critic. It's a radio station in your brain, permanently tuned to a channel of self-doubt and negative social prediction. This narrator engages in what cognitive behavioral therapy calls cognitive distortions. One of its favorites is mind reading. You see two people across the room laughing, and your narrator immediately concludes, "They're laughing at me. They think my shirt is stupid. They know I don't belong here." There is no evidence for this, but the narrator presents it as fact. Another is catastrophizing. You consider saying something in a group conversation, but your narrator chimes in, "Don't do it. You'll say something dumb. Everyone will stare at you. You'll be humiliated, and they will never talk to you again." A small social risk is magnified into a social apocalypse. So you stay silent, which, of course, reinforces your feeling of being on the outside looking in. There's also personalization. The belief that everything is about you. A colleague seems curt in an email. Your narrator says, "I've done something to offend them. They're mad at me." A friend doesn't text back immediately. "They're tired of me. Our friendship is over." This internal monologue constantly positions you as the problematic variable in every social equation. This narrator creates a self-fulfilling prophecy. Because you believe you don't belong, you act in ways that keep you separate. You avoid eye contact. You keep your contributions to conversations brief and safe. You stand at the edge of the group instead of in the center. You decline invitations because the anxiety is too great. Other people, in turn, may interpret your reserved behavior as disinterest or unfriendliness, and they may pull back. Your narrator then triumphantly declares, "See? I told you. They don't like you." The cycle is complete, and the invisible wall between you and others is reinforced, brick, by your own thoughts. Sometimes, this feeling of otherness isn't just a product of our internal world. It can be a deep echo of past experiences. Social trauma is real and it leaves scars. If you were bullied as a child, you learned a brutal lesson. The group can be a source of danger and humiliation. The playground is a battlefield, and you are a target. This experience can install a kind of social hypervigilance that persists into adulthood. You enter a room not with curiosity, but with fear. Your nervous system is primed for attack. You are scanning for threats, for shifts in tone, for subtle signs of exclusion. You can't relax and feel included because a part of your brain is still that scared child on the playground, just trying to survive until the bell rings. The same is true for anyone who has experienced significant social rejection, whether it was being cast out of a friend group, going through a painful breakup, or being ostracized by a community. These experiences create a wound, and even when the wound has healed, the memory of the pain remains. We become afraid to trust the group again. We keep one foot out the door, ready to flee at the first sign of trouble. This defensiveness, born from a real and painful past, is what keeps us feeling like an outsider in the present. Furthermore, being part of a marginalized group can institutionalize the feeling of being an outsider. If your race, sexuality, gender identity, disability, or cultural background differs from the dominant culture in the room, the feeling of being an outsider isn't just in your head. It is a reflection of a tangible social reality. You may be subject to microaggressions, to unconscious bias, to being the only one in the room. In this context, the feeling of not belonging is a sane response to an environment that constantly, in ways both subtle and overt, signals that you are other. The work here is not just internal, but also about recognizing the external forces at play and seeking out spaces where your identity is not just tolerated but celebrated. But there is another, more subtle reason for this feeling, one that can feel particularly confusing. Sometimes you feel like an outsider because, in some ways, you genuinely are different. Perhaps you think differently. You connect ideas in unusual ways. Your sense of humor is off-kilter. Your interests are niche. You value deep, one-on-one conversations about the meaning of life, while everyone around you seems content with small talk about the weather or sports. This is the uniqueness paradox. The very qualities that make you interesting, creative, and insightful can also be the source of your isolation. You listen to conversations and you feel like everyone is speaking a different language. The topics that animate them leave you cold. The things you are passionate about would be met with blank stares that I end this scenario. You're not necessarily anxious or traumatized. You simply feel a profound sense of mismatch. It's like being a deep-sea creature in a shallow pond. You are built for a different environment, and in this one, you can't help but feel out of place. This can be deeply disheartening. It can lead you to believe there is something fundamentally wrong with you. Why can't I just be normal? Why can't I enjoy these simple things like everyone else? This path can lead to a choice. Either you can try to sand down your unique edges to fit into the round holes of social convention, a path that leads back to the exhaustion of masking, or you can begin the difficult but ultimately more rewarding journey of accepting your own unique nature and seeking out the other deep-sea creatures. So we have these powerful forces at play: our attachment history setting our relational blueprint, the exhausting performance of masking, the relentless chatter of our internal critic, the echoes of past trauma, and the genuine reality of our own uniqueness. It's no wonder that feeling of being an outsider is so persistent. It's not one thing. It's a convergence of many things. So what do? How do we begin to dismantle this invisible wall and step into a sense of genuine belonging? The first step is a radical shift in perspective. The goal is not to force yourself to fit in. The goal is to cultivate a sense of belonging to yourself. For your entire life, you have likely been looking outward for validation. You have been waiting for the group to give you a permission slip that says, "You belong here." The path forward requires you to stop waiting. It requires you to write your own permission slip. This begins with self-compassion. You must learn to speak to yourself with the same kindness you would offer a dear friend who was struggling. When that internal narrator starts its litany of self-criticism, you don't have to fight it. You don't even have to believe it. You can simply notice it and say, "Ah, there's that old story again. The story that I'm not good enough. Thank you for trying to protect me, mind, but I'm going to choose a different thought." You can place a hand on your heart and say, "This is really hard right now. It's okay to feel this way." This simple act of self-kindness begins to change your internal environment from a hostile courtroom into a safe harbor. The second step is to become a detective of your own thoughts. Start to notice the cognitive distortions your internal narrator uses. When you catch yourself mind-reading, ask yourself, what is the evidence for this thought? Is there any other possible explanation for why those people are laughing? When you find yourself catastrophizing, ask, what is the most likely outcome here? Not the most terrifying one. And even if the worst-case scenario happened, could I survive it? By questioning these thoughts, you rob them of their power. You begin to see them not as objective truth, but as what they are: habitual, biased, and often incorrect mental patterns. Third, you must dare to be vulnerable. This is the antidote to masking. This is terrifying because it means risking the very rejection you have spent your life trying to avoid. But it is the only way to true connection. Vulnerability doesn't mean oversharing your deepest traumas with a stranger at a bus stop. It means starting small. It means sharing a genuine opinion instead of an agreeable one. It means admitting you don't know something instead of pretending you do. It means mentioning a niche hobby you love, even if you think others will find it weird. Each time you take a small risk and share a piece of your authentic self, one of two things will happen. Either someone will respond negatively or they won't. If they respond negatively, yes, it will sting. But it will also give you valuable information. This is not your person. This is not your tribe. And you will discover that you survived the rejection. But more often than not, you will find that your moment of authenticity is met with a moment of authenticity from someone else. You will see a flicker of recognition in their eyes. Oh, you feel that way too? In that moment, a real connection is forged. You are no longer an actor on a stage. You are two real people, meeting in a shared space of honesty. This is how the invisible wall begins to crumble. This leads to the fourth, and perhaps most crucial step. Redefine your search. Stop trying to belong everywhere, and start focusing on finding where you belong. The world is vast. The idea that you should be able to feel at home in any and every room is a recipe for disappointment. Not every room is for you. Not every group of people will understand you, and that is okay. Your task is not to become more likable to everyone, but to find the one or two people who get you. Quality of connection trumps quantity every time. One friendship where you can be your full, weird, authentic self is worth more than 100 acquaintances who only know your masked SO. Where do you find these people? You find them in places that align with your true self. If you love books, join a book club. If you love hiking, join a hiking group. If you love a particular kind of music, go to the concerts. If you are passionate about a cause, volunteer. Stop going to the parties that drain you and start going to the places that energize you. By putting your authentic self into authentic environments, you radically increase the chances of meeting people who resonate with your true frequency. Finally, it's important to understand that this feeling may never disappear entirely. There may always be a part of you that feels a little bit on the outside. And perhaps that isn't a flaw. Perhaps that outsider perspective is a superpower. It is the vantage point of the artist, the innovator, the philosopher, the scientist. The ability to stand slightly apart from the group is what allows you to see things that the group cannot. It allows you to question assumptions, to challenge the status quo, to create something new. Maybe the goal isn't to completely erase the feeling of being an outsider, but to change your relationship with it. To see it not as a source of shame, but as a part of who you are, the part that sees the world a little differently. You can learn to be in the room, to participate, to connect, and to still honor that quiet, observant part of yourself that remains at the edge. You can belong to the group without losing your belonging to yourself. The feeling of being an outsider is a profound and painful ache. It is born of our deepest human need for connection colliding with the complex realities of our lives, our minds, and our histories. But it is not a life sentence. It is a signal. It is a call to turn inward, a call to treat yourself with more compassion, a call to question the stories that have held you captive, a call to be brave enough to let yourself be seen. You are in the room. You have a right to be there. Not because you are the same as everyone else, but because you are you. Your unique perspective, your quiet observations, your hidden passions, these are not liabilities to be hidden. They are the very things that make you who you are. The journey out of isolation is not about becoming someone else. It's about finally, fully, and bravely becoming yourself, and trusting that, in doing so, you will find your way home.